Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of SpaceX's NROL-85 mission being launched out of Vandenberg Space Force Base in California for the National Reconnaissance Office. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the host here at the launch pad, and here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you here with us for another of the first of three SpaceX launches expected to happen over the next week. It's going to be a busy week, but first, right off the bat, to those celebrating Easter today, happy Easter. A very exciting day for all Christians, and we hope that you are able to enjoy today and surrounded by your families as well, at least digitally or in person. But as always, as we get started, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Love to see where people are. We got people tuning in all over the world. Great to see so many regulars in the chat. Helen, Julian, Jeff, we got Jake, Kathy, lots of people in there. So let us know where you're watching from, and we'll give some shout outs. If it's your first time here, let us know that as well. But today's mission, as I said, NROL-85, is a classified mission for the National Reconnaissance Office, which means it's going to be a slightly different broadcast than what we're normally used to with most SpaceX launches, as we will not see any of the vehicle after right before they get to fairing separation because it is classified, so we can't see what the payload is. Also, we do not know the mass of the payload. We just know that Falcon 9 can't carry more than 10,000 kilograms. We know it's going to roughly an initial orbit of 1,220 kilometers by 1,024 kilometers, but we don't know much more than that for its final deployment. But we will be seeing a return to landing site landing of today's Falcon 9. This booster will be attempting to land at landing zone 4 back at Vandenberg Space Force Base, just a few hundred meters from where it launched. And today's booster is only its second flight in its history, booster 1071-2, launching today. It helps support the NROL-87 mission back in February this year, so it's had a very decently quick turnaround for a National Reconnaissance Office, just 73 days, and getting ready for its second flight. If you haven't yet, take a moment, hit that like button, and subscribe. It really does help us out. A few things right off the bat we'll let you know about. It is launch day, which means you can get 10% off of everything over on our shop using promo code LAUNCHDAY. You also can follow us over on Twitter. We'll be live tweeting updates throughout today's launch, and then follow us over on Discord. That's where we hang out pre and post launches and throughout the week, talking about everything in space. If you like what we do, you can help support us by becoming a member by hitting that join button or heading on over to Patreon. By doing so, you can get access to behind the scenes, early video access, scripting, and a whole bunch more, and those start at $1.99 a month, but help us ensure that we can bring you guys the best possible up-to-date coverage that we can. We will be showing SpaceX's feed live. They'll be getting underway here in just the next couple of minutes, and we will be patching that feed in. Right now, you're just seeing a live look at the raw telemetry we're getting, and there is a blurry Falcon 9 in the middle of there, I do promise, but this will be updated to the telemetry once we have actual liftoff from Slick 4E, or Space Launch Complex 4E, or 4 East, out at Vandenberg Space Force Base. If you guys are down in the region, anywhere along the Los Angeles or West Coast region within a few hundred kilometers, and you've got clear skies, you may be able to see today's launch. If you do capture photos or videos, we invite you to send those to us over on Twitter at TLPN_official and tag us there, and we will be retweeting some of those today. One thing we wanted to bring up that's slightly different than what we would normally bring up during one of our broadcasts is that we're excited to be growing our team and would love to see some of you guys possibly becoming part of that. If you're interested in possibly becoming part of a team and being part of the Launchpad and just trying to being that industry leader of bringing space and education to everyone globally, you can head on over to tlpnetwork.com/join our team. We're super excited to have released a few different applications yesterday, so we're looking for photographers and videographers, contributors, and moderators. You can head on over there. We'll drop a link in the chat as well, and you guys can check those out. Applications will be ongoing, and we'll go from there. If you're just joining us, though, welcome. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of NROL-85, launching out of Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. We're expecting live views of the pad to get underway here in just a couple of minutes from now. And yes, a gray screen is correct. That is what you're seeing. There is a little Falcon 9 in the middle of it. That little white mark, that is a Falcon 9. This is live telemetry from SpaceX. So don't worry, there will be video. Don't worry. You can see people joining us all over. We got UK, we've got Fort Lauderdale, Massachusetts, Cornwall, Hong Kong, UK, great Ohio. Great to have you all here. Edmund saying it's foggy on the coast. We've been hearing SpaceX has said that they are still conducting GO. Ranges GO. They also have gone through and begun the propellant load sequence as everything has continued, and are at T-minus about 19 minutes and counting. We'll get that official countdown updated once they begin their broadcast. Again, because it is a classified mission, not as much coverage as we normally would see, but that is okay. If you guys have questions, you can let us know in the chat. We'll be answering those live throughout today's launch. Throughout today's launch. Tag us at the launch pad, and we will be answering them live. Randall, is the fog going to delay this launch? Unlikely. It is something that is not normally a delay that causes delays. They can launch through fog, especially at Vandenberg. It's kind of a joke that they kind of always do launch through fog, but they will be getting underway here. SpaceX is getting their streams all set up, so we'll be patching those in here now. But we should be sitting at about T-minus 15 minutes and counting. Helen, why is it classified, this mission? I'm wondering if it has to do with the military government. Yes, so it is for the National Reconnaissance Office, which is part of the U.S. Military and government for reconnaissance. So data gathering and stuff for the military. So that is why. That is why it is a private classified payload. Normally, we hear them launch. It's 2 classified satellites into low Earth orbit with these missions. So we do know a little bit, but they don't give a lot of information because it would be a risk to national security and the security of those satellites. Just like we see Russia and China and others launch payloads that are classified. Normally, in Russia and China, we just don't get to see the launch, but SpaceX is SpaceX, so they broadcast every launch, but we don't always get to know what's actually inside. Today's targeted liftoff time is 6:13 Pacific or 13:13 UTC. This mission's been delayed a few times, originally scheduled for yesterday and then a few days before that, but glad to see it out on the pad. But if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of NROL-85, launching out of Vandenberg Space Force Base in California from Launch Pad Space Launch Complex 4E or 4 East. Classified payload going to an initial orbit of about 1,200 by 1,000 kilometers at an inclination of 63.5 degrees, but we do not know a final inclination or a final orbit altitude, other than we know that they are targeting a low Earth orbit. Morning, Michael. Good to see you. Morning, Melody. Happy Easter. Nope, you're just in time, Melody. We got about 13 minutes and counting. If you guys have questions, you can continue sending those in and tag us at the launch pad. We'll be answering those. Normally, we would go through a weather briefing right now, but on the East Coast, the 30th Weather Squadron does not release public weather forecasts like we normally get out on the East Coast. The West Coast doesn't. So it is something that throws a little kink into the Vandenberg launches. A lot less data because normally they are NROL 80 something or 90 something launches. as we see those numbers tick up over the next couple of years. We see a number of these a year. But today is the 148th mission of Falcon 9, so approaching that 150th milestone. It will be the 88th flight of a Falcon 9 proven booster, the 92nd of a reflight of a booster, and the 13th reflight of a booster in 2022. SpaceX is going for a new record, their 40th consecutive landing, and they are already at their 14th launch of 2022. And this is the 41st orbital launch attempt of 2022 of all space agencies. So that number ticking up there quite high. Let us know in the chat, how high do you think that number is going to get this year? How many missions do you think we'll see in the whole world this year? Last year we were well into the hundreds. Do you think we'll see 200 this year? SpaceX is targeting up to 50 or 60 launches. So let us know in the chat what number you are thinking. Yes, Randall, we are live, and this will be launching in the next 15 minutes. Mino, congratulations. I wish you well on those exams. It's exciting. If you're just joining us, take a moment, let us know where you're watching in from. Would love to welcome you here. Melody's watching from Chicago. Great to have you. Slow neutron, yes. if you boil it down to it, yes, it's a spy satellite. Well, that's at least what we're assuming. Joe's watching from Tennessee. Good to see you. Got Spain, Houston, Texas, Trinidad. And you can see SpaceX getting started here with their new intro that we saw last week. We'll be patching them in here momentarily. We will be showing live telemetry during the launch as well, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. Following liftoff, we'll switch over to our split view where you'll see live telemetry and tracking of the first stage. We're not sure if they're going to cut that. Most likely they cut it with these NRL missions shortly after stage separation, just because we don't want to see if it's turning, so we'll just have to wait and see. But if you're just joining us, take a moment, hit that like button. We are just about 11 minutes away from liftoff of NROL-85 out of Vandenberg Space Force Base in California for a classified mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. Let's listen in to SpaceX Mission Control.
22. And on your screen is a live view of Falcon 9 as it waits for its 6:13 a.m. Pacific Time launch from Space Launch Complex 4 East on Vandenberg Space Force Base. My name is John Innsbrucker, and I'm joining you today from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California, just about 170 miles south of our launch site. Our mission today is NROL-85 for the National Reconnaissance Office,
Everyone
also
loves
referred
John.
to as the NRO. Today's flight carries a national security payload designed, built, and operated by the National Reconnaissance Office. NRO missions provide critical information to more than 500,000 government users, to include every member of the intelligence community, 24 domestic agencies, our nation's military, lawmakers, and decision makers. Now, per our customer's request, we will not be showing views of the payload, so we will be ending the webcast just after first stage landing. Today's flight is a special one, as it marks the first launch using a flight-proven booster for the NRO. Let's take a look at a recap of the previous mission this booster supported just 2 months ago.
And for those just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of NROL-85. SpaceX showing a recap of NROL-87 that launched in February using this same booster out of Vandenberg Space Force Base. This is the first ever time the NRO has approved a reflight of a booster for that office. So really just showing how the world is accepting flight-proven rockets and that they are safe and they are reliable. And that SpaceX kind of knows what they're doing. So we are sitting at T-minus 9 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. Coming up in the next couple of minutes, we are going to be seeing engine chill begin. That is when they begin cooling the engines in preparation for liftoff to make sure that those engines do well. And then about a minute and a half later, we will see strong back retract. That's like you see on your screen right now, where that tower will retract just a couple of degrees in preparation for launch, and then it'll retract all the way to 45 degrees during the actual launch sequence. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. Just take us at the launch pad and we'll be answering those. Michael, that's true. They don't track most of those either. Coming down to T-minus 8 minutes, 20 seconds. Seeing a recap of NROL-85 and this same booster that launched back in February. It had a rather quick turnaround for the first ever time that they've done a reflight, 73 days.
You saw in the video launched only 2 months ago, and the same booster from that video will be launching today's payload into space. NROL-85 also marks the NRO's 61st launch since public disclosure of launches began in December 1996. And it also marks SpaceX's 14th launch of the year. Now, at T-minus 7 minutes, 45 seconds, the conditions for today's launch are excellent. The weather is great, the front went through, and the high winds from yesterday are gone. Weather officer giving us a 0% probability of violation.
On countdown 1 with the hold authority comm check. Please respond with strength and clarity. NOPS OD.
Loud and clear.
STC.
Loud and clear.
TC.
Loud and clear.
PD.
Loud and clear.
That concludes the hold authority comm check.
Here in comm checks on countdown net 1. Continuing on, the range is ready to support. They're green. Finally, both the vehicle and payload are in good health. Let's take a closer look at the rocket supporting today's mission. You can see on the screen the Falcon 9 surrounded with the condensing gas.
Start of engine chill.
As the atmosphere touches the cold first and second stages. That Falcon 9 is our 2-stage rocket. It stands 70 meters tall, making it just 3 meters short of the Taj Mahal in India. Now we're currently loading propellants onto both stages of the rocket. That began on time at T-minus 35-minute mark. And as we just heard, chill has begun at T-minus 7 minutes. Now starting from the bottom, we have the first stage. We also refer to that as the booster. That makes up over 60% of the length of the Falcon 9 vehicle. And while it's designed to be reflown multiple times with minimal refurbishment between flights, today's first stage will be flying for the second time, as I noted earlier. The first stage is powered by 9 Merlin engines, and that's where the 9 comes from in Falcon 9.
Stage 1, RP1 load is complete.
Fuel loading complete on the first stage. Now these Merlin engines get Falcon 9 off the ground and up to the edge of space. 2 minutes and 20 seconds into today's flight, the first stage should separate from the second stage. And once the stages separate, the first stage will do a quick flip and execute 3 more burns to return to Slick 4 West, landing zone 4 that you can see here in a shot, and that's just 1,400 feet from where it took off. Now mounted on top of the first stage, just above that black cylinder, is the white second stage. Less than 10 seconds after stage separation, the second stage will light its single Merlin vacuum engine and continue to take the NROL-85 payload to its intended destination. Now, while very similar to the Merlin engines on the bottom of the first stage, the Merlin vacuum engine has a larger nozzle that allows the second stage to perform better in the vacuum of space. At the very top of the stack, kind of surrounded in clouds, but that is the payload fairing, inside of which is the payload safely enclosed. That's a 17-foot diameter fairing, and that's the large cylindrical structure you can see there with the tapered nose. Now the fairing protects that satellite from aerodynamic heating, loads, and contamination during ascent. And once we reach the vacuum of space,
tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
Once we get to the vacuum of space, we'll jettison the fairing halves while stage 2 continues to orbit. And as you can tell by the clean paint on the fairing, this is new hardware. We will also be attempting to retrieve the fairing halves using our recovery vessel, NRC Quest. Now the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO, is responsible for developing, acquiring, launching, and operating America's reconnaissance satellites, as well as operating associated data processing facilities in support of national security. These sophisticated systems are used to develop military targeting data, support international humanitarian relief operations, and assess the impact of natural disasters. As a reminder per the NRO, we will not be sharing any views from the second stage today. We'll be ending our webcast shortly after the planned first stage landing at the T+8 minute mark. We're just inside T-minus 4 minutes and counting. All systems continue to be go for an on-time launch. Range is green, weather is excellent. Vehicle and payload continue to be healthy. Now, if for some reason we are not able to launch today, we do have a backup window tomorrow about 15 minutes earlier. Right now you can see the strong back is retracting away from the Falcon 9. The clamps opened up a little bit earlier. We're now moving away. It's moving from a position of 90 degrees upright to about 77 degrees. This is different from our East Coast launches where we move a couple of degrees at first and then pull further away at liftoff. Now we're coming up on T-minus 3 minutes, at which time loading of liquid oxygen on the first stage should be complete, and we'll hear the closeout call. And at that point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are...
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
There we go. Stage 1 LOX load is complete. That means we're still loading LOX on the second stage, but we've got almost 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen on the Falcon 9 right now. Meanwhile, the strongback is fully reclined at that 77-degree position. It's ready for liftoff. You can see a little bit of the views in those close-ups where you saw the umbilical stretching out. They're carrying the gas, communications, commands, and propellants to the Falcon 9 second stage. Now, next up, coming up in about 25 seconds, we ought to hear completion of loading liquid oxygen onto the second stage, and that will complete propellant loading for flight.
And for those just joining us, welcome here to the Launch Pad, our live launch coverage of SpaceX NROL-85 as we come down to T-minus 2 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. Waiting for Falcon to go into startup here. As always here on the launch pad, though, we want to see from you guys. Let's see a go, no go in the chat. We're going to continue listening in as we get under that T-minus 2 minute mark and a targeted launch of NROL-85.
Waiting to hear the call out of liquid oxygen load complete on the second stage.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
That's what we're waiting for. We're on the mark. And right now, the NROL-85 payload team continues to be go, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. T-minus 1 minute 30 seconds. We're now venting down the strongback.
Gas launch closeouts.
That's what they call the gas launch closeouts. That's why you're seeing the large cloud coming off the strongback as we bleed off the pressure and drain the liquid oxygen in the line. Makes for a great show right now in the pre-dawn morning out at Vandenberg. Coming up on 60 seconds when we'll hear the startup call out on the flight computers.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
MD is go for launch.
Now you've heard the call out coming up on T-minus 30 seconds. Mission director, go for launch. Everything looking good for Falcon 9 and NROL-85.
T-minus 15 seconds.
T-minus 10.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff, the Falcon 9. Go NROL-85.
Downrange. Stage 1 chamber pressure is nominal.
And there you can see we have liftoff of NROL-85 from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base. A typical Vandenberg launch with not very great mics, but it is lifted off and out of that fog layer. So you can see that on-site camera there, and there's a ground tracking. On the right side of your screen, you are seeing live telemetry from SpaceX of the launch of the first stage. We do expect that telemetry to be cut off just around stage separation, as this is a classified mission, but we do have 1 minute into flight coming up to max Q.
The speed of sound, the Merlin engines have throttled back up to full power.
Max Q.
And now we're through the period of maximum dynamic pressure where the stresses are greatest on the Falcon 9. T plus 1 minute 30 seconds. Everything continues to be nominal on Falcon 9. Trajectory looking good on the first stage. We should hear a call out here shortly. MVAC-D chillin'.
MVAC engine chill has begun.
Getting the second stage engine ready for ignition coming up very shortly here. We're getting ready for main engine cutoff, stage separation. The first stage will head back to the launch site. The second stage will ignite and head to orbit.
Nico. Stage separation confirmed. MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
And there you've heard it. And we maybe even saw all those 5 events that happened back to back. Now currently on the screen, the first stage has begun its flip maneuver to reorient the nose back towards Vandenberg, and we have lit 3 Merlin engines. This is the boost back burn, the first of 3 burns the first stage will execute. This burn lasts a duration of about 48 seconds. Now while the burn's in progress, we'll also be having events on the second stage, but we may not be hearing those. And we won't be broadcasting second stage camera views at the request of our customer.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And we did hear fairing separation over the net. Boost back burn shutdown is coming up.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
Right on time, we've got shutdown of the 3 Merlin engines. We'll next be waiting to see the titanium grid fins begin their deploy now that the boost back burn is complete. And here come the fins. Pin pullers releasing and the 4 titanium grid fins beginning their slow deploy. We're coming up on 4 minutes into launch. Now with that boost back burn done, our first stage will be attempting its landing in just 4 minutes at T plus 8 minute mark. We're now heading back to the launch and landing site at Slick 4, but you'll notice the first stage has continued to coast up to apogee. You can see there on the screen we've got the altitude and speed indicators of the first stage, 132 kilometers, and now we'll begin descending back down towards the Earth's atmosphere. Now there will be 2 more burns of the first stage engines. One will be the entry burn. That's the next one up. Again, where 3 of the Merlin engines will reignite, the same 3 we just used on that boost back to head it back to Vandenberg. There's a view looking out of the inner stage on the first stage. Second stage now gone, but that gives you an idea if you were sitting inside the inner stage what the view looks like out of it. There's a view. We're slowly getting some of the ocean and California clouds as the first stage continues to orient and head back towards the landing zone. Now the entry burn that I mentioned, it'll be coming up. That'll be to help slow the stage down in preparation for entry
Both
back.
vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
We got a good call out there. Everybody's on nominal trajectories. You may be able to see on the right-hand side above that right grid fin that kind of whiter squiggly line. I think that may be the contrail from the liftoff of the Falcon 9 as we're heading back right towards about that spot, 1,400 feet away from the liftoff. Now you can see The altitude decreasing. We're down to just inside the 100-kilometer point. Velocity is picking up again. The entry burn will light, and that'll scrub off some of that speed. Now, in the vacuum of space, you can see these white pulses. That's nitrogen gas from attitude control thrusters on the inner stage. They're being used to orient and aim the launch vehicle first stage. These thrusters are up on the inner stage near the top of the first stage. Now, right now, you can see the grid fins aren't doing anything, but once we get back into the atmosphere, look for them to begin moving because it's in the denser air that these fins provide that steering that we need of the vehicle during descent. Right now, we're waiting for the entry burn to begin.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
We've heard startup. There's the center engine is lit. And now we've got 2 more engines up, changing the shape of the plume. Now, if you're watching the speed display, you'll notice the velocity is quickly coming down. Now, this burn will last about 21 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And we've got shutdown of the entry burn. And if you're watching that speed display, you'll notice we took out about half of the velocity of the first stage. We've still got 1 more burn to go, and that's the landing burn. Now, during the first stage landing burn, the center Merlin engine will relight and slow the vehicle down for its second landing attempt back on land, not too far from our launch site.
Stage 1 FTS is safed.
Flight termination system on the first stage has now been safed. Landing burn coming up in about 10 seconds.
Stage 1 is transonic. Stage 2 FTS is safed. Stage 1 landing burn.
We've got landing burn. You see the grid fins beginning to operate. Waiting to come through the cloud deck for a view of landing zone 4 at the old Slick 4 West at Vandenberg.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance. Landing leg
View from the
deployed.
ground camera, landing legs deploying.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And as you see on your screen, the Falcon 9 first stage has successfully landed at our landing zone, making this the second consecutive landing for this booster. And it also marks our 114th overall successful recovery of a first stage booster. Now, since we just finished the landing of the first stage, at the request of our customer, we are concluding our webcast coverage early today. We want to thank the NRO and the U.S. Space Force for entrusting us with today's launch. And of course, thank you to all of you for joining us, and hope you'll all enjoy the rest of your weekend.
And there we go, a successful mission of NROL-85 out of Vandenberg Space Force Base. I'm just going to cut back over here on the stream for a second there. A little bit of a maybe slightly crooked landing. It could be the camera. We'll have to wait to see. But a successful mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. Their first ever time launching with a reflown booster. Just showing, and SpaceX having now a brand new record for them. Their 40th consecutive successful landing. And we're seeing that number tick up very quickly. We've got 2 more missions coming up this week that we hope you will join us live for. We've got Starlink 4-14 coming up on the 21st, and Crew 4 on the 23rd. We also have the return of AX1 on Tuesday, and then return of Crew 3 next week. We've got Electron attempting their first ever recovery mission in the middle, so lots of stuff still coming up over the coming days and week. Make sure you have hit that subscribe button so you never miss another space news update, live launch coverage, or exclusive interview. Follow us over on Twitter for updates on everything space as it happens. Join us over on Discord. We'll be hanging out in live comms for a little bit following today's mission, and head on over to our shop. Use promo code LaunchDay. You get 10% off of everything in the chat. I know this is a short one. National Reconnaissance Office normally are, but we appreciate you guys being here at the Launchpad. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we are glad you are all here today. For those celebrating, happy Easter. Enjoy today. It's a good day, and we will see you next time. But for now, this is Zach from TLP Network Studios signing off. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.